Okay, Masters week, and I'd be lying if Thursday through Sunday isn't one of my favorite stretches in all of sports. And now, as a big gambler, I'd be lying if it's definitely not some of the most aggressive I get throughout the year when it comes to placing some wagers. That's what we're going to do the majority of time. Just kind of talk about the guys that I like a lot this week. Hunter Mahan joins the podcast. Beside Tiger and Phil in his era, he's easily one of the better American players. Won 6 times on tour, played in this event 10 times, finished in the top 10, 3 of those times, another top 12. I mean, this guy knows Augusta in and out. So we talk a lot to him about the golf course, how special it is, and just the cool experience, as well as some favorites as well. But these are going to be my specific bets and how I approach this weekend. I'm excited. I mean, every interview clip you see, some of the highlights from the course, there's nothing better than not doing much on Thursday and Friday, but watching the Masters starting, especially for those of us early on the West Coast, turning that bad boy on. And let's face it, I mean, now with the division in golf, it's one of 4 times a year when everyone gets together. So you got the defending champ Rahm, who lives right down the street from me in a tad bit bigger house, defected to LIV, coming back. DJ Koepka, who easily could have won it last year. Scotty, my pick, Rory. And then just some of my other thoughts on guys that I am going to hammer as top 10s and top 20s. But before we dive into some Masters thoughts, got to tell you about my close personal friends. Go to your smartphone, download a little app, the official ticketing app of this podcast, Game Time. You want to go to a game? You want to go to a playoff game? NBA, NHL, you want to go to a baseball game? Get out, get some sun, grab yourself a brewski, take a friend, take your wife, take your brother, take your dad, go enjoy yourself. Do it on us. Go to Game Time. Your first pair of tickets, you can buy price point, sight lines, easy to search, any venue you want to go to. Promo code JOHN, 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 save $20 at checkout. Doesn't get any easier than that. Promo code JOHN, save $20 at checkout. Little promo code, no big deal. Game Time, download that app right now. I've been gambling pretty heavily on golf now the last 3 or 4 years. And one thing, and I've talked a lot about, is being aggressive, picking guys to win is a pretty crazy strategy. It is very, very difficult because most weeks you're betting on, if you pick 5 guys to win the tournament, you're betting against 150, 160 guys. This tournament is unique. There are only 89 guys playing in it. And if you win the Masters, you can play in it the rest of your life. So there are guys, Larry Mize, Freddie Couples, a lot of guys that play in this tournament, a lot of guys, but there are 20 plus players in this tournament that have no shot to win the tournament, let alone to probably compete to make the cut. And Koepka's been saying this for years. If you look at any major, but specifically this one, much smaller field. So when you're betting top 10s and betting top 20s, the ratio based on the rest of the field is not as big because you're not competing against 150 guys. You're only competing against 90, and you can wipe probably 20 of them before you even hit the tee shot on Thursday. So you're really competing to finish top 10 out of 70 to 65 guys. So it is a much easier tournament that way from a strategic standpoint. It's why my favorite bets of the week by a country mile are Xander Schauffele and Hideki Matsuyama to top 10. You get Xander plus 140. You can get Hideki plus 180. Course history, course knowledge matters a lot. When Hideki won it, Xander was playing with him in the last round. Xander has had a lot of success here. He is a very good major player. Now, as we saw at the Players, you don't feel very comfortable with him to win the tournament. So taking him 16, 18, 20 to 1 to win one of these things, though I think it will inevitably happen, is a pretty risky bet. But to me, a top 10 feels about as big of a lock as you can have. I am very, very confident that Xander Schauffele come the weekend is going to be near the top of the leaderboard. Same thing with Hideki, who has been playing awesome this year. Won at RIV, which you could argue, beside the Players, is the hardest tournament to win in terms of the difficulty of the course. non-major of the year. He has won this tournament before. I fucking love Hideki. I mean, I can't like him anymore. I feel very, very confident. I'm going to put large four-figure wagers on those two guys. Shane Lowry is a player that a lot of people in the golfing community, course history, he's played really well here, I think 3 of the last 4 years. He is a guy who has an excellent short game. The weather the first couple days, it could rain. Now, unlike last year when it was frigid conditions, it was freezing cold. Anyone, like, I'm a warm weather golfer. Twice in probably the last month, it has rained and been cold. I did not make it past hole 12. Tapped out. This ain't for me. Can't do that in professional golf. Playing for real money, real stakes, the Masters. This is a guy, Irishman, who likes playing in the conditions. He won the Open Championship once upon a time in very difficult conditions, and he blitzed the field. Shane Lowry is a very, very popular pick. Now, you can get him at like plus 360 to top 10. To me, it's probably a safer bet. I think it's plus 130 to top 20. But Shane Lowry is another player that I'm going to have some exposure to. I think the key here is to get a guy who is in form and has success at this course before. It's why you see a guy like Phil Mickelson, who's 52, 53 years old, after his win at Kiowa, goes to LIV, looks like shit. I mean, I don't watch much LIV. I do keep tabs on the leaderboard, and he is consistently down near the bottom. He is no longer anywhere near one of the greatest 5, 6, 7 players of all time that he once was. Even the guy that we saw at Kiowa, long gone. But last year at this course, and Tiger said it today in his press conference, only course in the rotation of all the majors that we play every single year. U.S. Open, new course every year. PGA Championship, all sorts of courses. Even the Open Championship, while they consistently play St. Andrews, bunch of other courses mixed in there. Every single year, you know you're getting the Masters. Now, the Masters, because they have like an unlimited amount of money, changes it every single year. They add trees, they add slopes of the green, they add different hills. They will just, it's one thing to add a tree. Like I put some ficuses in my backyard. It's going to take them a year to grow to 15 feet or whatever. There's like, yeah, we just added 50-foot trees. They literally just move a fully grown tree and put it in a spot. And anyone that knows that has played golf before, a fully grown tree is a big deal. And they can manipulate the course better than any place because of the unlimited amount of money they have. So to me, guys with course history are most equipped to change that. Or, to handle and adapt to that on the fly. Now, when you're going to pick a winner, look at the last couple winners. Jon Rahm, who at the time he had, I think, won 3 or 4 times leading up to the Masters. It was clear he was, if not the best player in the world, number 2 best player in the world. He had won the U.S. Open the previous year. He was on a trajectory like a fucking rocket ship, a lot like Scottie Scheffler. Then he leaves the LIV. And I talked to Hunter Mahan about this. He had some quotes this week. They're like, yeah, I wish LIV would go to 72 holes. Iron sharpens iron. And Jon Rahm, to me, is more of a throwback grinder of a guy that likes to work, likes to prepare, is used to a routine. He's a lot like a football player, likes his routine. LIV's weird. It really is. There have been some clips on LIV of him like screaming at guys to calm down. It's like, John, that's the vibe out here is anything goes. But I think it's been difficult for him. It wasn't difficult taking the $200-300 million or whatever. Eventually that made him crack. But he, of all the guys, I would put Koepka next on that list. We're just like, I don't really want to do this, but I can't really turn down the money. And unlike Koepka, who is unfazed, can just show up to majors. Like, if you're telling me you have money on Koepka or think Koepka's going to win this week, I can't disagree with you. I really can't. Because we're at the point now when a major happens, you don't just expect, you are shocked when Koepka is not in the mix. To me, Jon Rahm's a little bit of a wild card. The pressure of the defending champ, clearly not being as sharp given the crew that he's playing with, his own mindset of only playing the 54 holes. My expectations for him are lower. I'm not going to have no exposure to Jon Rahm. Scottie Scheffler, if he can putt, he's winning this tournament. But as we just saw a couple weeks ago, a putt to send it into extra holes from 5 feet after he fucking pipes a drive, knocks it 180, 5.5 feet, he misses the putt. And anyone that plays golf, you watch the highlight of that putt, it never had a chance. So I will not be shocked if Scottie Scheffler hoists his second green jacket in 3 years. But to me, and people are going to think I'm nuts because he needs to win this to complete the Grand Slam, the career Grand Slam. He's a guy that last year, with all the hype, missed the cut. And if you miss the cut at this major, it's a lot different than missing the cut at other majors because, like we talked about, the smaller fields. I actually think this is a perfect spot for Rory. A couple weeks ago, he got with Butch Harmon, who used to work with Greg Norman, then transitioned to a guy named Tiger Woods, who has worked with the Ricky Fowlers, the Dustin Johnsons, the Brooks Koepkas. His son, Claude Harmon, now is basically their coach, who to me is more than just a golf coach. He's a mental coach. And last week, for the first time all year, Rory started looking like Rory again. And listening to the No Laying Up podcast, thought they hit the nail on the head. The reason Rory has not won this tournament, even when he's played well, he's one of the greatest drivers of the ball we've ever seen. He's played on this course long enough to know how to putt. His approach shots have been awful. And unlike Tiger and Phil, he's not very artistic as a ball striker with a 7-iron, an 8-iron, right? Those guys are working the ball every way. When I think Rory, I think high draws. And on this course, historically, drawing in theory is something that translates well. But his approach game last year was hideous. And so far, coming up until last week, has not been great. And then he gets with Butch Harmon, and all of a sudden, statistically, he's dramatically better. And beside two guys, Danny McCarthy and Akshay, who won his first tournament, congrats to him, who ran away with the tournament, Rory beat everybody else. So, listen, I'm taking Rory. Feels like, in a weird way, flying under the radar a little bit. He's 11-1. He's like 10-1, 11-1. DraftKings, he's changed. He was 10-1, I think, to start the week. I just looked right before I hopped on. He was 11-1. So you can get him right in that range. I think he's winning. Not only is he winning a Masters, I think he's going to win a couple more majors. Hell, 2 years ago, he finished top 5 in all the majors. He easily could have won the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. And it's not like one of those, well, he just doesn't know how to win. Like Xander. I can't place a winning ticket on Xander in these big tournaments. Not because I don't think he will inevitably do it, but until he does it, I'm not doing it. I'm just not going to do it. Rory has done it. Now, you could say it's a long, long time ago, and that's true. Hasn't won a major in forever. And if you watch Full Swing, one thing that sucked is when Koepka won the PGA Championship last year, he passed him in majors. Rory had 4, now Koepka has 5. And he's the big swing, and you know what? In the golfing world, because of all the current players, I'm not counting Tiger Woods and Phil, he has the most of his era, of the Spieths, of the Rorys. You know, a couple guys have 2, but Rahm has 2, obviously. I just think this is Rory's time. Call it a gut feeling. Call it just being overly excited from last week. Even Tiger Woods said this morning in his press conference, it's a matter of when. It will happen. And I don't think Tiger's just blowing smoke saying that to be nice. I think he truly believes it. And I'm taking Rory to win this tournament. The NBA season is in full swing. And when I can't get enough of the action on the court, I spice things up betting on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Right now, new customers bet $5 and get $150 instantly in bonus bets. North Carolina listeners, don't forget, DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in your state. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code JOHN, J-O-H-N. New customers can bet $5 to get $150 instantly in bonus bets. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code JOHN. The crown is yours. A couple other guys that a little bit more of longer flyers. When I won a big bet at RIV, I placed a live bet on Zalatoris, and I won a couple grand, and I cashed out, double my money, and I still had like $500 on there. I placed, I think it was like 35-1 on Zalatoris. Now, I probably wouldn't do that sitting here right now because of the way he's looked, but he's your classic guy. Historically, in these majors, he can not look great, and he comes to these, and he's a factor. Now, health, The back has been a problem. He had back surgery last year, but you got to look at these guys, and Koepka definitely falls under this. Majors come around, and let's face it, guys crumble. You see it in football. There was this, you'd be in OTAs and you have this fifth round. You're like, holy shit, did we just find our starting safety? And then the pads would come on and they'd take a step back. And then the season would start and they'd crumble. The pressure just amplifies in golf. And unlike football, where there's a gradual buildup, in golf, you just playing 1 week and then all of a sudden it's the major. It's like, buckle up, you're at Augusta. Everyone's watching. Crowds are massive. Different, and the course is very difficult. And Zalatoris has proven to be comfortable in these environments. You know, other guys like Jason Day, who's had a lot of course success here. Now, he hasn't played as well this year, but he's another guy that I dabbled on. And then there's just the group. And this is the hard part about, you know, picking these guys is Spieth has mainly looked really shitty this year until last week. He's a guy that's very, very comfortable here. Justin Thomas, who historically profiles very well here, does not play that well, and then just broke up with, I don't know, one of the best caddies of all time in Bones, Phil's former caddy. So not feeling that great there. I mentioned this to Hunter is on Saturday, and I've seen Tony a lot out there over the last month, but at TPC, I teed off, I think we teed off around 9, and Tony went to the back of the Grange where all the pros go. And he went right to the putting green. When I got to hole 8, about 2 hours later, he was still on the putting green. When I finished, he was still on the back of the range. And then I saw on Instagram that he was playing until the sun went down. Now, every guy on the PGA Tour at this level practices really hard, but he is a player that if the putter does get hot, he's proven that he can be a factor here. If you've seen that clip going around on the Tiger Woods historic 2019 come from behind win, he was in that group with Tiger and Francisco Molinari. So to me, he's always a huge wild card, but maybe I'm just blindly rooting for this in a weird way. I root for him anyway, just because I enjoy watching him play golf, but I kind of just feel like he's been so close, not necessarily in this tournament, though. A couple years ago, he like backdoored. I think he finished like second or third, but he never had a chance to win the tournament. I kind of think it's Rory's time, man. I really do. And everyone's going to be on Scotty Scheffler, rightfully so. Would not stun me. He wins this tournament. He might win 3 of the 4 majors this year and have one of the great seasons we see of all time. But he could still have one of the great seasons we see of all time and, you know, finish 3rd here, which probably feels statistically, historically more likely. But I'm going Xander, Hideki, hammering them to top 10. Shane Lowry, I might split top 10 and top 20. Thagala is a guy, great short game, just kind of an artist, much more in this modern day game of like kind of robots. And listen, I say robots, like I would call Wyndham Clark probably more of a robotic player, and it works. He won a major last year. To me, Thagala is an old school. You could put him in the 70s and 80s with that shitty equipment, and he would have been a good player because he's not as dependent. Obviously, he benefits like all of us do from the newer equipment, but he's got it all in the bag. And I think his short game is an area that can really, if he's playing well, and he's shown signs this year to be a factor. A lot of people are taking Ludwig, who is just has a chance to be an all-time talent. I mean, he's a guy that most believe will be the number 1 player in the world one day, should compete and win majors. I do think it can be difficult. This isn't just his first Masters. This is his first ever major. Now, the only guy to win a Masters on his first ever Masters was Fuzzy Zeller in 1979. That's not normal, right? I mean, usually guys with a lot of experience tend to be, I don't want to say older players because Tiger won it really young, but guys that have been through the ringer a little bit. You know, when you think of Phil Mickelson's first time, Adam Scott, Sergio Garcia, Dustin Johnson a couple years, Hideki was a 10-year pro. Even Scotty Scheffler was younger, but he had been on the tour then for several years and played in majors. Ludwig would probably be one guy. I don't want to say I fade him because it won't shock me. Like I expect him to make the cut, but I think a lot of people picking him to compete to win. I would be a little stunned, and hopefully I'm wrong. I'm a big fan of his game. It does translate pretty well. Great driver of the ball, high draws. I do think this tournament can be a different animal. Now his caddy, Joe Scarborough, is Fowler's former caddy. Worked with Tom Kim for a little bit. Like he knows this course well, so obviously that matters. But last year, JT had bones. He missed the cut. So a caddy, this is not football. The caddy can only do so much. I can't wait, man. I really can't. This is just an incredible viewing experience. Even if you're listening to this and you don't love golf, totally understand. It's not for everybody. I don't expect it's a niche sport. I understand that. This is one of those, if not the event. I mean, it is the most popular golf event of the year. We say this all the time. Why did women's college basketball just have 20 million people watching? It felt big. Why is football and college football now so massive? Their games feel big. They feel like an event. They feel like something you can't miss. For as shitty as the LIV experience has been in terms of taking all these sweet players, the villains of golf, away from us, and it sucks for those of us that like to watch golf on a weekly basis when just a couple million people are watching. That has hurt us. That has hurt the sport. That has hurt the viewing experience. Everyone getting back together makes these even that much bigger. You don't get to see DJ and Koepka and Cam Smith and Bryson together with Scotty Scheffler, Rory, and Spieth and all these guys anymore. We get it 4 times a year. And I know these guys have been talking. We got to hurry up and get a merger. Who knows? We could be years away from all these guys. I don't know if we're ever going to get a weekly experience again, but just 10 plus times a year all playing together. That feels years away. Years away. So when this happens, us golf fans, us fans of big sporting events, have to enjoy it. And as Tiger said today, it's major season, baby. You see me once a month playing in all the majors. It's like, Tiger, I thought you meant once a month in other events as well as the majors. Might have lied. His body might not have been right. And let's face it, my expectations for this guy aren't much. Like most people my age that were born in the mid 80s, that grew up in the 90s, Tiger and Michael were the biggest athletes of our life. And I'd argue 2 of the biggest. I mean, I don't know if it gets much bigger than Michael Jordan. I would say Tiger Woods is not far behind him just in terms of universal notoriety and universal, like you just tap someone on the shoulders and point at, do you know who that is? And they can say, yes, that's Tiger Woods. His days, I know he said today, if it all breaks right, I can compete to win. I'm not sure I'm buying that, but I don't even care. If he just can play 4 rounds, which, let's face it, based on the last couple of years, would be an accomplishment, would be an upset given that he's withdrawing and not finishing any of these tournaments, I'm in. I really am. I think it would be cool if somehow on the weekend, like even if they're like 30th, Tiger and Phil are playing together. That would be cool to see kind of their vibes toward each other. Obviously, one's team PGA Tour, the other's team LIV. It feels like the stars would really have to align, but hell, we just got a solar eclipse, so maybe it's the time. I can't wait, man. I really can't.